It's interesting when you mentioned you had Kareem as a guest. I've told this story a lot of times. I was director of promotions. Mr. Cook believed in having a small crew. And I remember...
This is Jack Kent Cook.
Jack Kent Cook. And I remember coming into the office, and I got to my secretary said, boy, Mr. Cook fired Shep Goldberg, who was the Laker PR director. I said, what? He fired him. And the Lakers were going to training camp like in a day, the next day. Remember 30 minutes later getting a call from Mr. Locker's office. Cook was already in Vegas because he had moved to Vegas to get a divorce so he wouldn't have to pay something. Mr. Locker said, Roy, Mr. Cook would like you to go to San Diego and help out with the PR because we fired Shep. I said, Mr. Locker, we got the circus coming in 2 weeks. Roy, it's only temporary on it. I'm not a PR guy. I did not have one journalism class. So I go to San Diego. The training camp was at the University of San Diego. And Kareem was our starter. This was before Magic. Mm-hmm. I said, no one's interested in Don Ford or Ron Boone as Kareem. So I remember going up to Kareem, who was intimidating no matter whether he was young then or now, because he's 7'1". I said, Kareem, I remember this, up to him. And he was nice. He said, because he knew me, but not as close as the PR guy. I said, Kareem, I think you know that Mr. Cook fired Shep. So Mr. Cook wants me to handle the PR for a while. Is there anything I need to know on to handle that? And I remember he said, Roy, only one thing, just don't surprise me. He said, I don't want to come in and you've set up an interview with NBC and they're set up there and then you go and get me and tell. Just don't surprise me. He's very nice about that. And he said, that's all. I'll do whatever you want. Because Kareem had that image that he was a tough guy and standoffish. And I remember him telling me that, Roy, I'll do anything you want, just don't surprise me. And we did it. And I stayed for the PR the whole year. Mr. Cook saved himself the dollars. And then Scott Carmichael, who was my intern, and Lon Rosen, who was my intern back then. Now Lon is executive VP with the LA Dodgers. Scott Carmichael went to the NHL. They handled a lot of my hands-on stuff while I was having to sit next to Chick Hearn being the PR director on that. So yeah.
Now was that famous scene of Kareem's in Airplane, the movie?
Yeah.
Was he?
I don't know
were
whether
you there
that
at
was,
that time, or was
I don't. That might have been when Shep might have been the PR director on that. Yeah. I don't remember what year that was.
But that kind of changed Kareem's image. He
absolutely.
did have that intimidating image, and when
absolutely.
he did that,
it was kind
of
comical and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. So I had mentioned to the TV audience that I wanted to ask you about your daughter, and so tell us just a little bit about your personal life, your family,
I've been married.
Tell us about your daughter, the volleyball player.
I've been married 47 years. Nancy is retired now. She was a real estate agent. Allison went to Newport Beach schools, Harborview Elementary School on the hill there in Corona Del Mar, and then Corona Del Mar High School on that. And in our town, she got in. She was kind of always interested in sports because of me. I would take her. I mean, there was the Laker championship year, and there she was with Kareem holding her, at the Dodger game, Wally Moon, a good friend of mine, holding her, and so forth. And she was a tall girl early on at her age, which was tough for her because she was the tallest girl in her class. And I don't know what, I can't remember, Rick, whether she came home wanted to play volleyball, and this was like when she was 9 or 10 years old, and it was club volleyball at that time. And I remember it was like $750 or $800 a year to be in the club program, 3 nights a week at Corona Del Mar High School or Ensign. And Nancy said, boy, do we want to spend that much money? You know, we did, and she took to it, and at Corona Del Mar, she played on 2 CIF championship teams, state championship teams. Her senior year, they won the national championship, USA Today. She got recruited by a number of schools. I said, Allie, you can go any place, but you can't go to Cal Berkeley. We have some things. We said, sorry, you're not going to Berkeley.
And that's because the rivalry? Or
no, I didn't want her to go to a too liberal school.
Oh, okay, all right.
That was our thinking.
We should have gotten into some politics on this show.
and we didn't want to go to Wichita State or East Coast because we couldn't see her. And she got recruited by University of Portland, which is in the WCC. So we said, Allie, we love that because they're in the conference with Loyola Marymount and Pepperdine and University of San Diego. She went there and did well, and then scout saw her and said, "You want to go to Switzerland? We'll pay you and we'll house you and play a year." And she played a year in Switzerland, and she played a year in South America. And as I was saying, we were talking earlier, she's 42 and she still plays. She still plays in 2 leagues on Saturday night, which I love that she has the passion. She hasn't lost the passion. Then I said she goes to the chiropractor once a week too, because hitting the ball for 30 years, your shoulder's a little bit out of whack.
No kidding. Who's your all-time favorite sports figure?
You know, because I'm in the fight business, people would say it's Muhammad Ali on that, because he was a great athlete on that. You know, I always liked Joe Montana. He was a winner.
Is that somebody you knew? Or
I did a couple of commercials. They had hired me. I'll tell you, Magic. I knew Magic when I was the director of promotions. When he was a rookie, he would come into my office. He loved popcorn. We'd get him popcorn. Magic has never had an ego, and that's why, like so many athletes have egos. I want to be treated a certain way. There's an entitlement. They feel they're entitled to certain things. Magic has never had that, and it was played up. I had left the Lakers, probably 5 years it's been. Drew and I were at an SC football game at the Coliseum, and it was halftime, and we just got up to stand stretch. I hear a voice, "Hey, Roy! Hey, Roy," and I look a couple of sections over, it's Magic Johnson, and he's coming. He spotted me coming to see me. My son, who was small, eyes wide open, and Magic took the time, and I hadn't seen him in maybe 4 or 5 years, came over, hugged me, and so forth. So in answer, Magic Johnson, because as he was an 18-year-old sitting in my office, I think he's the same as the Lakers executive now.
Being involved in the fight game, what's the saddest recollection you have, like somebody who was killed, or that type? What's the saddest thing you've witnessed?
We had a show at Little Creek Casino in Washington. Main event, spectacular main event, a local kid, and we flew a good fighter in from Memphis. And he was getting beat in the 10th round. It was a tough fight, but Mike was winning the fight. And in Washington, there's not a lot of fights, boxing, so that the officials aren't as good. And this referee let this kid get some punishment that I was there sitting, boy, he stopped the fight. He doesn't need, he's losing the fight. Don't have him go. And he let the fight go the distance, and the kid got pretty beat up in the 10th round. After it's over, we're at the casino, has a hotel. I'm back I go and open the elevator, and there's the fighter with his trainer. And he said, tough luck, and he had been cut, patch, and so forth. And he was kind of down because he had lost. So we go to bed. The next morning, I get up. And why they didn't call me, I get up. And I get a call at 7 a.m. from my matchmaker, said, "Roy, they took," and I forget his name, to the hospital. They flew a helicopter and landed at the Coliseum. What had happened, he went back to the trainer, took him back to the room, and said, "How are you feeling?" "Well, I'm going to lay down. Let's go get something to eat. I'm not hungry." He said, "I'm going to go get something to eat." The trainer did, and the trainer always remembers to take his fighter the room key for the fighter. He comes back in 40 minutes. The kid's laying on the floor, had vomited, unconscious. What had happened, as happens in boxing, he had a brain aneurysm. They took him. He had surgery. They had to take out part of his skull. He was in intensive care for 35 days in Seattle Hospital. We were there. He's better now. He didn't fight again. That was the most severe injury that I've had for a fighter, because you're the promoter. Yeah. You don't want a guy to die on your watch, if you will, in a sport that is tough. And that was the toughest time, knowing, because we flew back several times. We flew his mother in, and the kid is never going to be the same again on that. And that's what we face. Anytime there's a big knockdown or a knockout at my show, until I see that the fighter's feet or hands move or they pick him up, I'm holding my breath, because we're in a hurt business.
But people are fascinated by that. You go online and there are, I mean, the YouTube videos of famous knockouts and, you know, Mike Tyson's, you know, 10 greatest hits and on and on and on. There's
and the crowd cheers. When there's a knockdown, the crowd jumps to their feet. They want to see the violence, which the knockout is more violent than just hitting them with a jab on that. Yeah, you're right. They want to see that.
Yeah, I've got a story. Years ago in Akron, Ohio, I was befriended by kind of a town character, an ex-boxer named Georgie Cochan. Cochan fought Jake LaMotta 3 times. This was in the 40s. In fact, in Raging Bull, he has an actor plays him for about 2 seconds. You see the guy's shoes on the canvas as Jake LaMotta's going like this. But he fought him 3 times. He said, and the first time it was a controversial decision.
Wow.
He said, and he lost. But he said the first time a lot of people thought I beat Jake LaMotta. The next 2 times, Jake LaMotta showed I didn't win the first time. But he also had another comment. He fought Archie Moore later on, even though he was a middleweight and Archie was a light heavyweight,
and the greatest.
He said. He gave me a great line. I said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "My manager wasn't afraid of any of them."
Yeah, which is a shame, because that's why there's a lot of guys that, you know, mumble their speech. I mean, I have fighters now that have fought for me that come to the Fight Club OC shows, or I see them in Las Vegas when we do shows there, that you can't hardly understand them. I have some fighters that call me, and I hope they call me on my cell phone because I can hear better. And I have to listen so intently because they're 35 years old and their speech is slurred. I mean, there's no doubt that getting hit in the head kills brain cells. Now, but you look at it, Oscar's speech is fine. There's a lot of good. Adrian Ward, Gennady Golovkin, some have been injured more.
But look at Muhammad Ali.
And Muhammad Ali,
the prettiest. Nobody could lay a glove on him until later on, and then look what happened to him.
Severe punishment, and that's why the Parkinson's and the brain trauma. It's not easy.
It's a tough business.
It's a very
Well, it was great, Roy. Thanks so much. This will be a great. Open mic segment.
Good.
For
very good.
So very good.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Okay.